Welcome to another episode of Ranting and Raving. We're getting closer and closer to training camp in the off season, and so previously we talked about the players most likely to become breakout stars in this season, with one returning guy, and the rest would be all new players who could have a major breakout season. And today we're going to talk about the UDFAs that I believe have a reasonable chance of making the final roster. And it was going to be five guys, but Rasheed Shaheed, he's starting training camp on the non-football injury list, which is not great. And so I was kind of high on him. I was interested in him. He's definitely competition for Hardy, Deontay Hardy, but if he's not on the field, none of it matters. So obviously can't put him on this list when we're not even sure that he's going to be available for training camp. So with that said, I'm going to go over these guys as of right now in reverse order. So least likely to make the roster, but still of the four guys that I think have a realistic chance of making the final 53. And we're going to start with Smoke Monday. So number one, hands down, top two best name on the roster. No question. The jokes write themselves. The guy, as soon as he signed with the Saints, made a video of him flipping off the Falcon Stadium and saying, "Y'all gonna have to deal with me." So right there, fan favorite. Hard-hitting safety. Could he be a super high-impact special teams player? Possibly. And I think that's the way that he makes the roster. If he is a depth safety guy, and he beats out, I'm forgetting the guy's name, the white safety from Kansas City who sucks. Sorensen, I think is his name. Him. He's actually solid on special teams, but he sucks. Like if he's actually getting snaps. That's who Smoke Monday is in competition with. And if it's relatively even, I feel like the younger guy has the inside track, personally. Partially because he's cheaper, but also just because then it's like, okay, well, if he can do relatively the same on special teams and we can develop into maybe, being a rotational or backup player down the line, then that's worth it. So Smoke Monday is a guy that I think could make the roster. He's interesting to me. It's at a position where the Saints have a lot of unproven guys. And again, if he's willing to bust his ass and play special teams, then he could have a shot. The next guy on the list, and this is really coming entirely from the mini cams and everything that we had about a month ago. Bryce Thompson was getting a lot of love. So Justin Evans was another guy that was a second round pick for the Buccaneers, had a lot of injury problems, signed with the Saints. Could he maybe, rehab his career and be something here? Maybe, and we'll see. We have all of training camp and the preseason. We're far from anything being decided. These are just the guys that really could make the roster. Of course, there could be a guy that isn't on this list that makes the roster. Welcome to the NFL. But he was doing really well. He was getting a lot of buzz for being versatile, for being in the right positions, for making a lot of plays. And a lot of times, in over history with those positions, the guys that do that really early, if they carry that into training camp, those tend to be the UDFAs that make the team. Like Willie Snead, several years ago was a great example of that. Popped early, continued to pop throughout training camp. It just clicked and eventually made the roster and was an impact player for the team for a couple of years until he decided that, Ubers don't exist. And his career made a sharp left turn. Next guy on the team is, in my opinion, the most intriguing player, not only of these four, but in some ways he's the most intriguing new player going into training camp, period. And it's really because the absolute complete lack of anything remotely close to resembling depth or talent at the position behind the starter, which is Alvin Kamara. And that's Abram Smith. I liked his college tape. I like his profile. I think he's the type of running back that can do well in this scheme and well in this team and fits what the team is looking for as a complement to Alvin. I think he's explosive enough. He seems to have good enough vision and balance. Some ability to break tackles and make guys miss, but certainly not. He's not Jonathan Stewart, or he's not half of Jonathan Stewart. You go undrafted for a reason. Um, but did have a really good year last year at Baylor and won in a lot of different a lot of the right ways as far as being able to play on this roster. And obviously we'll see. Training camp and preseason are going to be huge for him, but he's the most interesting guy to me from the standpoint of if he is what I think he could be, he'll have the greatest opportunity to have the largest impact year one. No question. Simply because there is no depth behind Alvin at all. Like, Tony Jones is a myth. He doesn't exist. He has to do something, like, in snaps that actually matter before he exists again. Um, you know, they don't really have another guy. Washington is a special teams player. He's okay, but, like, he's not getting snaps for a reason. Abram Smith has some interesting attributes. He's definitely a zone running guy. The Saints do a lot of zone blocking. He could make some noise. He could do some interesting things. He could be a valuable asset for the team. And as I've said a million times, I really feel like if the Saints want to have a lot of success this year, they really heavily need to live in play action as much as they can. And you can have play action without an effective run game, but it works a lot better when people actually respect your run game. So he's the guy of these four that if he hits, he's going to have the biggest impact on the team, and that makes him the most interesting to me. And then the last guy, if Smoke Monday doesn't have the best name on this roster, it's got to be Lucas Kroll. Big old, 6'5", looks like he can do, looks like he just does keg stands on the weekends. You just look at the guy, undrafted, but personally, I think if he wasn't so focused on baseball, if he had 3 years of growth and the kind of college tape that he had last year at Pitt, he doesn't go undrafted. He's a really interesting tight end prospect to me. My thing that I'm always looking at with tight ends, it's really two things. One is I want to see how they move in space. I don't really, to a degree, I don't really care what their 40 is. Especially tight ends, again, you tend to be, 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". Like, you're looking at larger people. That means longer limbs. That means longer strides. If you get them out in space and they get 15, 20 yards to get up to speed, they're going to run just fine unless they're just completely, slow and plodding. So I'm not saying the 40 doesn't matter. I'm just saying it's nowhere near the most important thing for me. What I'm looking for is how low do they move in space, and it's because of that large body. It's harder to move fluidly in and out of breaks. To run your routes, run it to the right depth, run your cuts, get open. That's Troutman. It's been Troutman's problem. Troutman, well, that and dropping the ball, but Troutman, once he's had the ball in his hands, has been able to do things with it. The problem has been is he hasn't been able to move well enough in space to get open to get those passes consistently. The brief glimpses we've had of Kroll, and then obviously what he did in college, he actually shows a lot of those movement skills, and he's got that prototypical tight end frame, and he's got good hands. And he seems to play like he plays with that mental toughness. Like, you talk about guys playing tough physically, but you don't play tough physically if you don't play tough mentally. People talked about Jimmy Graham being soft. He really wasn't. Like, he had some really bad injuries those last couple of years here, and he was always a terrible blocker, but that wasn't a toughness issue. That was a technique issue and a want-to issue. Jimmy played through a lot of injuries. He played through a lot of contact. Jimmy Graham was a tough football player. But Jimmy Graham didn't play a tough style. But he did play through contact. Again, go watch what Jimmy did. You can't tell me that guy was soft. But he wasn't a tough guy. He wasn't putting on the hit stick. He wasn't trying to stiff arm people into oblivion. He wasn't running. He occasionally ran people over, but not super frequently. But he would absorb contact and take shots and weather them and then continue going, down the field. He did those things. Lucas Krull, I think, is more of, and this is very, very much projection, but he's more of what fans think of when they think of a tough or tight end. Again, not that he's just going to be dumb and take dumb hits, at least you would hope not, but he really strikes me as a guy who plays very physical. And you kind of need to at that position, so that's a good thing. I'm really, really excited, to start seeing some clips from camp and seeing it from Nick Underhill and the other people that cover, John DeShazier, which by the way, hopefully, John recovers from cancer and he comes out okay. That was really shitty to see across the timeline, but Larry Holder and Kat and Maddie and I'm not going to try to name everybody. I'm going to forget people. People are going to get mad, for the 11 people that watch this. But yeah, like I can't wait to see clips. I'm really, really high on this guy. I think he's very interesting. But I'm also tempering expectations for his first year simply because tight end is one of the absolute hardest positions to perform in the NFL as a rookie. And if he has a couple 100 yards and some good catches and some good blocking and makes some plays, and if he looks meaningfully better as a player the second half of the season than he does the first half of the season, I'm very happy and excited. I would be, frankly, a little bit shocked if he doesn't make the roster because running back has the worst depth on the roster. Tight end has the second worst depth on the roster. Which is why the last two guys we're talking about are a running back and a tight end. These are the most likely players to make the team because, frankly, there's not a lot of competition they got to beat out. I would not be surprised at all if Lucas Krull beats out Nick Van Ant. I would not be surprised at all. In fact, I would actually be a little bit surprised if Abram Smith didn't beat out Tony Jones Jr., barring an injury. So those are the guys that I think are going to make the team. We'll obviously see. Training camp is right around the corner. Preseason's right around the corner. We're only a couple of months away from football here. Things are going to get really, really fun soon. Hope you guys enjoyed. If there's anybody you think that I missed that you think is going to make the team, or if you disagree with me about any of these four players, feel free to go into the comment section and let me know. Always appreciate the engagement there. And if you want to support the channel, like, comment, subscribe, hit the little bell notification. As we get closer to the season, content's going to become more and more frequent, and we will be doing reaction streams immediately after games. Just to have a little bit of fun, and when we lose, we can rant and rave about it, and when we win, we can rant and rave about how much everybody can kiss our ass. So either way, we're going to have some fun. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll talk to you again soon.